Two. Check two. As soon as I turned the camera on, I realized that this shirt has a little hole in it. What is this? That's not professional. As soon as I turned on the camera, I'm like, oh, that looks good. Great. I have like a joint hole in my shirt. Wonderful. The hole makes me working class. I gotta put on some kind of a shirt over this. Real communists wear their red shirts till they're washed out pink. Well, and Marina, to make this even more special, you can kind of still see it. This used to be a shirt with a burning Canadian flag on it. You can barely even see the pattern anymore. It's because it's been washed through so much. To make it extra subversive. It was one of some of the merch for my old podcast, 49th Pair of Hell. We got a burning Canadian flag on there. You can't even see it anymore, and it's basically pink. I'm gonna put on something over this. Just one set. Just talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves for 1 minute. Okay, I'll be right back. You know what? Let's just do this again. Let's just do this again. Okay? Give me a sec. Two. Hey, what's up? What's up, guys? Rob Rousseau here, coming at ya. What if I started the stream like that now? Would that be a good thing if I started at the stream like that? What's up, guys? Rob Rousseau coming at ya with a brand new edition of TRRS. Think I could pull that off if I started doing that kind of a thing? Kind of like a morning zoo. What's up, chuckle fucks? Really live from NDG, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I could start doing that kind of a thing. In all honesty, this is going to be a low energy stream. Ahoy, hot fuck waffles. Oh my goodness. That's maybe pushing it a bit far. In all honesty, I'm trying to artificially bring up the energy here. Because I just went... Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your boy Rob Rousseau coming at you with a brand new episode of TRRS, the show in the know. That's good, Nicole. Thank you for that. It's gonna be low energy today, folks. I'm trying to like artificially bring up the energy because the show was starting and I went up to my fridge. I feel like I'm about to be entered in a contest for free Bush tickets at the Pennsylvania State Fair. And if you tune in for the fourth caller, tune in. The caller number 4 will get 2 tickets to the Monster Truck Extravaganza featuring Big Daddy Don Bodine's truck, the Behemoth. I went to open the fridge. I had no energy drinks. No energy drinks, no Reign, no Monster, no Red Bull, no Guru, no Mountain Dew with the extra caffeine, no Diet Coke, no Diet Dr. Pepper, I got nothing. I got I'm out of beverages right now. I got no beverages. All my beverages gone. Have you ever heard of tea and coffee? I did have a coffee this morning, so it's like that's what's keeping me afloat right now. But I didn't really have time. I didn't have time. I do have some apes, fortunately. Thank you, Putin. Thank you, you motherfucker. You know, it's like I don't have time. I don't have a few minutes to like boil water and make a tea. I'm really just running up to the fridge to grab something. Or you should grab some kind of a beverage or a soda or an energy drink if I've got one. Today I got nothing. I'm going to have to go to the store later. So today's going to be all about hydration. Okay? Today's going to be all about hydration. You're going to have a hydrated Rob. Reinstate the rain pipeline to Canada. Thank you. FT reporting that Ukraine exported 30% of the world's rain supply. We're gonna have hydrated Rob today. We got the water motivation bottle today. That's right. Get started. Don't quit. Think healthy. Almost there. You did it. Yay. And I just had a cup. I had a glass of water upstairs when I was getting this stuff too, so I'm going to be extra hydrated. Extra hydrated today. And maybe that will give me the energy that I need to carry us through this. Is any left Twitch streamer talking about the massive famines that's about to hit East Africa? I mean, related to the shortage that's going to come from Ukraine and Russia because of the amount of grain exports of Ukraine, which a lot of which go to Africa. I mean, I've definitely touched on it. I don't think we've gotten into the specifics of it, though. Oh my god. Oh my god. Jesus. Really on one today. I do this kind of stuff intentionally. Have holes in my shirts. Get hummus all over my face and then try to take it off and then make it worse. I do all this stuff intentionally, along with all the verbal flubs. All those are totally calculated and intentional. It's all designed to build this parasocial relationship. That's what it's all about, baby. That's what it's all about. Which ultimately causes you to all intentional. Rob's a bumbling fool just like me. Don't be ridiculous. That's part of it, but it's mostly because climate change has destroyed the rains. Yeah, so it seems like there's a number of factors that are contributing to this. I know people have been pushing me to talk about this new IPCC climate report as well, which is just like disastrous. I mean, it came out remember like 2 years ago, the IPCC report came out and it was like, this is fucking dire. And it was like in the news for like a week or two. Like, this is really dire. We got 10 years. And then last year, the report came out and it's like, this is really scary. Like, what's going on? And it was in the news for like a day. And then this latest IPCC report came out and it's just kind of like, whatever. It's fine. Am I crazy? We're not even really paying attention to it or talking about it now. That's probably not good, is it? That's probably not very good. So you have the war contributing to this upcoming famine in East Africa. You've got China as well, who's losing their wheat crops because of flooding. The news would probably rather perpetuate a war. We can't worry about that when Ukrainians are dying and all that. That's right. No time to worry about the future of humanity. We've got a global conflict to escalate, and a global geopolitical conflict to escalate. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the grip big oil has on the media. Yeah. I'm sure it does not. I'm sure these things are, or the not just oil, but like the defense industry and the weapons contractors. I'm sure they don't have anything to do with it either. There's surely no connection or no correlation between these things. Or all the stocks the politicians own. They've all got their bunkers. They've got their climate bunkers. They've got their generational spaceships ready to go. Their space arcs. They don't care. They don't care. Anyway, yes, let's definitely devote some time to this. To talk about overall the extremely dire climate situation that we're in, and all the near and long-term consequences. As we know, when it comes to these extreme consequences of climate change that we're going to be seeing increase exponentially over the next decade, and of course longer, it's not like it's going to stop. The real physical consequences of this are going to be visited upon, as always, people in the global south predominantly. We're going to feel the effects of it here, but it's predominantly going to be people in the global south that are going to bear the brunt of this. As always, as when it comes to the consequences of capitalism and imperialism, it's always visited upon these folks first and foremost. And they're already feeling it's a good point. But I mean, I think that's the scary thing, is that we're only really scratching the surface of the kinds of consequences that we're looking at. I mean, think about what the refugee crisis in Europe, how that's been directly correlated with the rise of the far right. And in the United States, the refugee crisis on the southern United States border as well, and how that feeds into this far right populism. And that's just over the last decade. The refugee crisis from like the war on terror, the refugee crisis that's resulted from U.S. meddling in Latin America, Central and South America. And it directly feeds into the rise of the far right, because there's neoliberals and there's the far right, and both of their approaches are just like completely hostile to immigrants, but it's led to this boon in organizing for the far right. And I hope we're ready for that to just if we think fascism is being normalized now, which it is, it's this massive mask-off moment in the West right now. If we're thinking that that has been a serious issue over the last few years, I hope we're ready for that to just like completely drastically escalate, as these migrant crises are just going to start to, they're going to make the migrant issues of the previous decade look like a fucking joke in comparison. So, if we're worried about the rise of fascism now, I have bad news for you about what the next decade is going to look like and beyond. Not to be doomerism, not to be doomer. Of course, there's always an opportunity for the left to organize around these issues, to organize around protecting immigrants and refugees, which we can and will and must do as well. I'm worried about the grip on power that the neoliberals have, though, and the decades of propaganda that have completely neutralized the ability of people to accept this idea that things can be different and better. I mean, I think that's why we're forming in communities like this, right? We form communities like this online because we get this sense of, we get this extensive extreme alienation when we look around us. When we look at the people that we see in real life, our friends and our family, we look at what's on the TV, what's on the news media, the priorities of our political class. And it just feels like we're totally paralyzed. Even though we have the answers, we have the correct analysis, we have the correct answers. We know what the issues are, we know what caused the issues, we know what the solutions are, but there's been this multi-decade long program that's been put in place through the media and propaganda, through our education system, that has just completely paralyzed our ability to get through to people to the extent that we need to. This is the thing that makes me feel not hopeful. We're starting off on a strong. This is our nice chit chat to get the conversational juices flowing today. I feel great so far. I hope you do too. This is though just what makes me feel really anxious and really pessimistic about the future of the West, anyways. Of the West. I have, where my optimism comes from, the global South, and it comes from elsewhere. I don't have a lot of faith in the West reacting to any of these changes in a positive or helpful or constructive manner. My optimism comes from elsewhere. My optimism comes from this kind of new multipolarity that we're seeing. That's what kind of makes me feel hopeful. The fact that even though the West is completely paralyzed and doesn't seem willing or capable of changing for the better or accommodating these things and in a positive or constructive way, the fact that the West is like losing our global influence, I think is a really positive sign that does fill me with optimism. That's what I mean. I understand the necessity of this kind of revolutionary optimism, and I think we should always hold on to that. Definitely the last few weeks have, I think, dealt a number of blows to my confidence that we can effectively communicate our ideas and solutions on a mass level, regardless of all these contradictions that come up and regardless of all these problems that emerge and these perpetual crises that we're experiencing now. I mean, you'd think with all these crises, people should be accepting our analysis and accepting our ideas. And it just seems like every crisis that happens, people just double and triple and quadruple down on believing that there's some answers available within our current context. And the last few weeks especially have made me feel pretty pessimistic about how many people, even if they accept some ideas about the left or socialism or any of these ideas that we know have the answers, how instantly a lot of these people can just be flipped and sucked right back into that machine and argue in favor of continuing to prop it up. That NYT headline getting us used to the idea of little nukes as a treat. Just little nukes, though. It's not that big of a deal. It is disgusting. Think about all the things that are being normalized right now. There was that piece in the other day that's like, oh, how are you going to deal with these rising prices? Just like, oh, and inflation. Oh, just start eating lentils. It's like, it's not going to be easy. No one said it was going to be easy. Yeah, there's probably going to be a little nuclear war, but don't worry, it's not going to be the end of everything. It's just going to be, tens of millions of people that die. I like her I'm exhausted, Luke. It's very cute and cozy. Thank you, Nicole. You missed earlier when I started, and I realized I had a hole in my shirt. Look at this. Look at that. It's like that unhinged thread from that YouTube. It's like that unhinged nuclear holocaust is not that... some shit that didn't get deleted there. It's like that unhinged nuclear holocaust is not that bad thread from that douchebag on YouTube. Yeah, it's like I thought that was maybe like an outlier. And now you have the New York Times jumping in on it as well.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I can feel the friendship triangle. It's overtaking me. Goodbye, family. Goodbye, friends. You are no longer needed.
Dapper Cat. That's the exact attitude that we'd like to foster here. Dapper Cat. Thank you very much for the 5 months of Tier 1. Hell yeah. Wonderful. You don't need toxic people in your life anymore. Okay? This is what it's 2022. We're rejecting toxic people and toxic influences in our life. There's not a cult, though. That's true. We're your friends and family now. Absolutely right. Oh, did Bad Bunny say Adore Bale? Classic. Eventually we're going to get the compound going. Okay, this is still early stages. This is the ground floor. This is the exciting thing about this community. You're getting in at the ground floor, okay? Once we have the actual friendship compound, we're going to remember having these little conversations. Okay? This is the exciting thing. This is the exciting opportunity for you. I'm unironically thinking of starting that for my community. Maybe we can be neighbors. We can have our two little cults, or I mean, not cults, two little communities Like maybe in some kind of neighborhood. That'd be fun. Oh, moist outlets. That's not gonna happen. Come on. Don't be ridiculous. Cult Town, USA. You know how noisy this chair is? Listen to this. Sorry, I dropped a grape. I dropped a grape on the floor and I was just hoping to find it. So it doesn't just sit on my floor for the next few weeks. Watch Rob's show, they said. You won't get any further doom build, they said. Well, this is it. I mean, this is why these communities are important. You know? Like I said, you can turn on your social media, you can sit at a family dinner table, you can turn on the news, and it just makes you feel like you're losing it. Like you're the only one that kind of gets this stuff or has this feeling. That's exactly why I think we're forming these kind of communities. Even on social media, when there's hundreds of thousands of people or millions of people there, you still start getting that sense of alienation. That's why we're retreating further into these like little enclaves. Anyway, well, to answer the question from a while back, we absolutely will focus on the IPCC report and the consequences that we're going to start seeing from this, including all the consequences with our supply chain, with the famines that are kind of on the horizon. Today, I did want to talk about the whole liberal NDP thing. Do some Canadian stuff today. And also, since it's Tuesday, I have a little bit of less time. So that's not a conversation that I really want to rush. Be able to take the proper time to get into it. It's actually a little frustrating. I had planned to do way more Black History Month themed content in February, and it was kind of derailed by the whole Russian invasion of Ukraine. But I would like to still focus on this stuff. I had been promising an episode. I wanted to do an episode talking about Reconstruction. And I still haven't forgotten about that. I still intend to do that, regardless of the tie-in. I do want to do more of that and keep having those discussions as well. Fucking Putin really threw off the schedule of this show, which is the worst tragedy of all. Derailed by the convoy as well. Remember the convoy? Remember that? When was that again? Like a year or two ago? Crazy. Still going strong, that's right. The oafs. Remember the oafs? Ancient history. Yeah, you still have the convoys in Calgary, that's right. That snow wall holding up. They're still just they're just daring the state the fascist Trudeau stormtroopers to breach the wall still. They're still holed up in there. They got a bunch of snowballs now. They got a big snowball stockpile in there. Yeah, in Calgary, of course, they're just still out every single weekend. That's true. The DC convoy got held up by one bike. It was funny, all these guys that like were trying to tell themselves that this is this big like historical shift or whatever. And it's already just forgotten. Already forgotten. Sorry, guys. No one cares. It is those weeks where decades happen. It really is. I mean, it feels like the last couple of years have been like that. So it's like we've lived through a number of different decades. Every year has been like a different decade since like 2015, it feels like. Went down harder than Occupy. How embarrassing to be more of a footnote than Occupy. You know what? I will always give tons of credit to Occupy for popularizing the idea of the 1%, the 99% and the 1%. You know? I think that's like, that has stayed with us. And Occupy, there's a lot of criticisms you can levy at it. Like, say it was that kind of like a horizontally organized, kind of directionless, aimless movement. I think it never metastasize into something that creates like real long-lasting change. But the impact that it had on our discourse, I think, is important. And just, it was this first expression that young people especially, were just like aware of the ways that things are completely rigged against their favor. There was even less left before Occupy, particularly in the US. Yeah, there's kind of a continuity. Right? You had the Obama movement, which then obviously people became very disillusioned with that very quickly. You had Occupy. You had the beginning of the Black Lives Matter protests. You had the Bernie movement. You know, not that these things are just like directly one-to-one related, but it's just this expression of discontent and this expression of rage keeps building in these different forms and shifting and evaporating and coming back. I think Occupy, like Black Lives Matter, both largely failures on actual policy levels, educated a large group of people for the next protest movement. And the Bernie movement as well. And you know what these movements teach us is that the establishment is very, very adept at taking that popular energy and dissipating it. Right? This is the lesson that I think we've been kind of learning over and over again over the last decade. Every time it feels like we're on some kind of precipice. And then it recedes. And we recognize more and more the role that the establishment plays in that process. Yeah, the 99 WTO. I think that's what I point to as like the first expression in the neoliberal era of this kind of discontent. I think that was you could probably point to other examples of it, but that was the first expression of it. So it's been this like 25-year period of these things, these movements forming, trying to, force some kind of a political change, dissipating or being absorbed by the establishment. And I think each time, yeah, it's very educational. It's very informative for people, at the very least. Bernie's campaigns are starting to feel like a high watermark, and that's depressing. I mean, that's part of it, admirable praxis, but I know there's going to be something else. There's going to be something else as well. But that I mean, like with Bernie and Corbyn as well, I've talked about that also. I think that's kind of the lesson from that, is that trying to take these movements to create change within the system as it exists is just kind of a dead end. I think more and people are kind of realizing that. It's a constant struggle. Well, like, or as Kwame Ture told us, right? It's mobilization versus organization. And it's not this one-time mobilization that you go and you show up to a few protests and then you go home and then you talk about, yeah, I was there. Remember that? I was there. It's this ongoing, eternal process. So that's the thing. I don't think it is a high watermark. We'll see something else. And who, like, again, I in all honesty, I don't have a ton of hope about our ability to create meaningful change in the West. It just, our enemies just feel like they're too powerful. And the people that should be with us are, as we're seeing, especially over the last couple of weeks, like I mentioned, really more, I think they're more inclined to snap back into being tools that propagate the current system than they are to want to overthrow that. But of course, there's that saying, you know, the power of capitalism or whatever, it feels immutable, so too the divine right of kings, right? I mean, that's another thing we often talk about as well. Like, do you think like Lenin in 1917, he didn't think he was going to see revolution in his lifetime? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about, Nicole. I think there's been a lot of people that kind of style themselves as leftists that have quickly, as soon as the temperature gets turned up a little bit, are out there defending things like NATO and kind of agreeing with a certain really reactionary Western chauvinist or American exceptionalist viewpoint that maybe a few weeks ago they might have said that they didn't subscribe to. Yeah, that's right. Scratch a liberal. But that's it. It's this kind of sense of alienation and hopelessness that I'm describing. Any revolutionary society that's existed in our past, right up until the day that it happened, you had people feeling the exact same way. So that's probably something we should remember as well. And I think the big X factor that we don't count on, and that we don't think about enough, is when conditions here in the West start to resemble conditions that we've been enforcing on other cultures and other societies for the last several decades that have led to our wealth and our prosperity. When the treats, right? When these treats start to dry up, I think it's going to kind of become an anything goes kind of scenario. I don't think any of us are really prepared for what that's going to do to people. And it's not necessarily going to be good. It could get a whole lot worse. Historically speaking, that's a likely scenario. But there's also the opportunity that we're going to be able to install the correct ideas in people. If Rob was on Red Planet, the anti-doomer communist organizing show I host on my channel, what would you want him to talk about? Seems like right now I really feel like I'm a great fit with my current attitude. I'm gonna fit right in. Just like, It is hard not to be doomer, and that's why I appreciate what you do, Nicole, because it's like, I think actively pushing back against that is kind of revolutionary in and of itself. That's what revolutionary optimism is, right? I think that's really important. A few weeks of real supply chain disruption and things could turn very quickly. Yeah, I agree, metal dipshit. We are really in like uncharted territory, it feels like. So who's to say what's going to happen? Like I said, it's any revolutionary society in the past, right up until the day that it happened, you had probably the vast majority of people that are part of these movements being like, this shit's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. It's too hard. Everyone's too brainwashed. Our enemies are too powerful. It's too entrenched. Right up until the moment that it's not. We also shouldn't delude ourselves to thinking that that's going to be easy or like that that's not going to get ugly, because it will. Even our correct ideas and our correct analysis that are based around mutual benefit and mutual prosperity, there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to be on board with that. And the idea that we're going to be able to pull things in the direction that we want, and that's going to be this like simple process that everyone's going to be immediately on board with, is probably a little bit naive. That's why I'm reminded of On Authority, the Engels essay. It's not going to be a simple process. It's not going to be very nice. We're going to have to be uncompromising when this moment comes. That's something we should try to start wrapping our minds around. Is this made Morpheus and Neo on the sidewalk or in the crosswalk? Oh yeah. This is a relevant clip, yeah.
Morpheus.
Commander Locke.
I've spoken to the other captains and I wanted to offer you the chance to explain your actions.
I wasn't aware that my actions required any explanation.
You were given a direct order to return to Zion.
I did.
But you asked for one ship to remain behind.
I would have stayed, but I needed to recharge my ship.
So you admit to a direct contravention of your duty.
Commander, we need a presence inside the Matrix to await contact from the Oracle.
I don't want to hear that shit. I don't care about oracles or prophecies or messiahs. I care about one thing. Stopping that army from destroying this city. And to do that, I need soldiers to obey my orders.
With all due respect, Commander, there is only one way to save our city.
How?
Neo.
God damn it, Morpheus. Not everyone believes what you believe.
My beliefs do not require them to.
Morpheus was wild for saying this. He was wilding out. I mean, that's the ugly truth that I think some of us sometimes want to avoid when we think about transitioning to our the new way of doing things. When we take this moment of revolutionary potential, when all these contradictions are on the table, these contradictions of capitalism and imperialism, and we think about the process of like pulling people along into this new way of doing things. The reality is, the uncomfortable truth is, that's not only going to mean a revolution, an economic revolution. It's also going to mean some kind of cultural revolution as well. When we discourage people, when we discourage people from holding incorrect ideas. And again, on authority, that's why I think on authority is good to read. Sinchel, you love that, right? Yes. Incorrect and harmful ideas, folks. We can't have people floating around with all these incorrect and harmful ideas that are going to make it difficult for us. Hurrah, that sounds authoritarian. Sounds like you're advocating for some kind of authoritarianism. Sorry, this is my Twitch. I don't think there's anything top secret on there. Oh boy. That sounds like authoritarianism, Rob. The amazing thing about like that conversation about authoritarianism and like what that means. This is why I really was amazed when I read this, because I was like, oh, this whole conversation about authoritarianism has been settled. It was literally settled in 1872. And we're still having this argument or discussion about authority and authoritarianism. And yeah, we want to have a revolution, but we don't want to have authoritarianism, though. We want to have a revolution, but we don't want to be too mean about it. Right? I think it's important to read this. It's important to internalize this when we talk about this kind of with this subject on authority. And it's short too. It's very short and it's very easy to understand. A number of socialists have latterly launched a regular crusade against what they call the principle of authority. It suffices to tell them that this or that act is authoritarian for it to be condemned. This summary mode of procedure is being abused to such an extent that it has become necessary to look into the matter somewhat more closely. Authority, in the sense in which the word is used here, means the imposition of the will of another upon ours. On the other hand, authority presupposes subordination. Now, since these two words sound bad and the relationship which they represent is disagreeable to the subordinated party, the question is to ascertain whether there's any way of dispensing with it, whether, given the conditions of present-day society, we could not create another social system in which this authority would be given no scope any longer, and would consequently have to disappear. On examining the economic, industrial, and agricultural conditions which form the basis of present-day bourgeois society, we find that they tend more and more to replace isolated action by combined action of individuals. Modern industry, with its big factories and mills, where hundreds of workers supervise complicated machines driven by steam, has superseded the small workshops of the separate producers. The carriages and wagons of the highways have become substituted by railway trains, just as the small schooners and sailing feluccas have been by steamboats. Even agriculture falls increasingly under the dominion of the machine and of steam, which slowly but relentlessly put in the place of the small proprietors big capitalists who, with the aid of hired workers, cultivate vast stretches of land. Everywhere combined action, the complication of processes dependent upon each other, displaces independent action by individuals. But whoever mentions combined action speaks of organization. Now, is it possible to have organization without authority? Supposing a social... This is the important part. This is the important part that I was hinting at here. Okay? We should pay attention. If you've never read this, you could pay attention to this part. Supposing a social revolution dethroned the capitalists, who now exercise their authority over the production and circulation of wealth. Supposing, to adopt entirely the point of view of the anti-authoritarians, that the land and the instruments of labor had become the collective property of the workers who use them. Will authority have disappeared, or will it only have changed its form? Let us see. Let us take by way of example a cotton spinning mill. The cotton must pass through at least 6 successive operations before it's reduced to the state of thread, and these operations take place for the most part in different rooms. Furthermore, keeping the machines going requires an engineer to look after the steam engine, mechanics to make the current repairs, and many other laborers whose business it is to transfer the products from one room to another, and so forth. All these workers, men, women, and children, are obliged to begin and finish their work at the hours fixed by the authority of the steam, which cares nothing for individual autonomy. The workers must therefore first come to an understanding on the hours of work, and these hours, once they're fixed, must be observed by all without any exception. Thereafter, particular questions arise in each room and at every moment concerning the mode of production, distribution of material, etc., which must be settled by a decision of a delegate placed at the head of each branch of labor, or if possible, by a majority of vote. The will of the single individual will always have to be subordinate itself, which means that questions are settled in an authoritarian way. The automatic machinery of the big factory is much more despotic than the small capitalists who employ workers ever have been. At least with regard to the hours of work, one may write upon the portals of these factories, leave ye that enter in all autonomy behind. If man, by dint of his knowledge and inventive genius, has subdued the forces of nature, the latter avenge themselves upon him by subjecting him, in so far as he employs them, to a veritable despotism independent of all social organization. Wanting to abolish authority in large-scale industry is tantamount to wanting to abolish industry itself, to destroy the power loom in order to return to the spinning wheel. Let us take another example, the railway. Here too the cooperation of an infinite number of individuals is absolutely necessary, and this cooperation must be practiced during precisely fixed hours so that no accidents may happen. Here, too, the first condition of the job is a dominant will that settles all subordinate questions. Whether this will is represented by a single delegate or a committee charged with the execution of the resolutions of the majority of persona interested, in either case there is a very pronounced authority. Moreover, what would happen to the first train dispatched if the authority of the railway employees over the honorable passengers were abolished? But the necessity of authority, and of imperious authority at that, will nowhere be found more evident than on board a ship on the high seas. There, in times of danger, the lives of all depend on the instantaneous and absolute obedience of all to the will of one. When I submitted arguments like these to the most rabid anti-authoritarians, the only answer they were able to give me was the following: yes, that's true, but there it is not the case of authority which we confer on our delegates, but of a commission entrusted. These gentlemen think that when they've changed the names of things, they've changed the things themselves. This is how these profound thinkers mock at the whole world. We have thus seen that, on the one hand, a certain authority, no matter how delegated, and on the other hand, a certain subordination, are things which, independently of all social organization, are imposed upon us together with the material conditions under which we produce and make products circulate. We have seen, besides, that the material conditions of production and circulation inevitably develop with large-scale industry and large-scale agriculture, and increasingly tend to enlarge the scope of this authority. Hence, it is absurd to speak of the principle of authority as being absolutely evil and of the principle of autonomy as being absolutely good. Authority and autonomy are relative things whose spheres vary with the various phases of the development of society. If the autonomists confine themselves to saying that the social organization of the future would restrict authority solely to the limits within which the conditions of production render it inevitable, we can understand each other, but they're blind to all facts, they make the thing necessary, and they passionately fight the world. Why do the anti-authoritarians not confine themselves to crying out against political authority, the state? All socialists are agreed that the political state, and with it political authority, will disappear as a result of the coming social revolution. That is, that public functions will lose their political character and will be transformed into the simple administrative functions of watching over the true interests of society. But the anti-authoritarians demand that the political state be abolished at one stroke, even before the social conditions that gave birth to it have been destroyed. They demand that the first act of the social revolution shall be the abolition of authority. Have these gentlemen ever... This is the important part. They demand that the first act of the social revolution shall be the abolition of authority. I probably could have just skipped to this stuff, frankly. They demand that the first act of the social revolution shall be the abolition of authority. Have these gentlemen ever seen a revolution? A revolution is certainly the most authoritarian thing there is. It is the act whereby one part of the population imposes its will upon the other part by means of rifles, bayonets, and cannon. Authoritarian means, if such there be at all, and if the victorious party does not want to have fought in vain, it must maintain this rule by means of the terror which its arms inspire in the reactionists. Would the Paris Commune have lasted a single day if it had not made use of this authority of the armed people against the bourgeoisie? Should we not, on the contrary, reproach it for not having used it freely enough? Therefore, either one of two things. Either the anti-authoritarians don't know what they're talking about, in which case they're creating nothing but confusion, or they do know, and in that case, they're betraying the movement of the proletariat. In either case, they serve the reaction. This is the part that makes people really uncomfortable, I think. This is the part that makes people really, really uncomfortable. Because I know it's emotionally satisfying to think that we're going to get to some kind of post-revolutionary society and we're going to abolish the state, we're going to abolish authority overnight, and everyone's going to get along. But I think it's a naive view of things. And this gets into like these contradictions within the Soviet Union itself, right? Why did the Soviet Union why did it create the KGB? Why were they committing acts of violence and terror? Well, it's because like they had to in order to preserve this revolution. If they hadn't, the Soviet Union would have lasted a couple of months, and instead it lasted several decades because they had to use these means to entrench the changes and the revolutionary changes that they were fighting for. They had to, or else you do that or you lose. That's the basic equation that's at play here. Right? That's just the basic equation. And this idea that we can have some kind of a revolution and just abolish authority overnight, abolish the state overnight, that's just, it's just giving up before anything has been accomplished. You can say that about the USSR. You can say about China. Why does China have to have a state? I mean, they claim to be communist, but they still have a state. Isn't supposed to be a classless, stateless society? Well, it's because they need this. They need this power. They need the state power in order to continue to hold on to the gains that they fought for. And the moment they let their guard down and they say, okay, well, no more state. We give up our state now because that's it. You know, that's what we're supposed to do. They lose. They immediately lose. And everything that they've fought for just goes to nothing. That's where I think we get tripped up sometimes, right? The classless, stateless society. And I think that's the thing you have to wrap your minds around. Is like, this is like, there's a reason Star Trek, to use an example, if you view Star Trek as being like the classless, moneyless, post-scarcity communist society of the future, there's a reason it takes place in the 23rd and 24th century. Because like this shit is not going to happen overnight, and to be honest, it's not going to happen in our lifetimes either. And we kind of have to just like let go of this idea. Do you want to be the Stalin of our movement? No, I don't. But I do think probably something that we should keep in mind is that our movement will in fact need such a figure if we ever want to like make these changes and make them last, right? It's not just about overthrowing the social order and creating a new society. It's about entrenching these changes permanently. That's the tricky part, because there's all kinds of forces that are going to organize right away to take all that away. There's going to be external forces trying to take it away. There's going to be internal reaction trying to undermine it from day one, just like in the Soviet Union, just like in post-revolutionary China. There's a reason there was a civil war right away. Right? It's because from moment one, there's internal and external forces trying to destroy what you're building from minute one. And you can take this idea of, well, we're going to be nice to everyone and you can lose, or you can say, we're going to do what needs to be done in order to secure these gains that we're, fighting and bleeding and dying for. They're still doing it in Cuba, absolutely, of course. We can't just vote? Man, I did not plan on talking about any of this stuff today. This is my solution to revolutionary defeatism. I would just like people to just forget this idea that when we talk about revolution and we talk about this idea of like completely transforming our economy or our social order, that's going to be like a bloodless, easy process, and that everyone's going to be on board with that. And that the people that we can that are not on board with it, we can bring them onto our side using facts and logic. This is something that I think people need to let go of, unfortunately. I mean, personally, I would prefer if things were easier. I would prefer if we could just like make the changes that we want, and then everyone would just immediately see the benefits of that and go, oh, okay, this is great, let's try this. But I think that's that's not being realistic. I think it's a little naive to think that that's the possibility. So I think when we talk about this idea of upending our economic or our social order, we should get used to the idea that that's not going to be like fun. That's not going to be like a fun, easy process that doesn't involve a little ugliness. Hello, Dane. The Ustash used facts and logic when they were disemboweling ethnic minorities in Croatia. Not even joking, Croatian fascists were going absolutely apeshit with the human rights violations. And to think for a second that we should have no authoritarian leadership in a war is absurd and childish. These people will kill you. I mean, this is going to be what's at stake. Right? And if you want to be nice to everyone, there's the forces of reaction, both internally and externally, will take advantage of that. And they'll destroy everything that you're fighting for. They'll just instantly destroy it, and it'll all go away. We see people all the time betray their class when their material conditions are improved significantly. If you can materially improve the lives of millions, I think a lot of the convincing is done for you. And yeah, that's true as well, Outrun. That's true as well. But I guess that's the idea, is that there's going to be some people that are just never going to be on board with that. Because, as we say, it's going to be about... it's not just about, it's going to be about improving people's material conditions first and foremost, of course, but part of that process is going to be about decreasing certain people's material conditions, very intentionally. To be honest, Rob, I think you're doing a little bit of a strawman when you can conflate organizing with not nice, or when you conflate authority with not nice, in both directions. I'm not sure I get what you mean. I guess just it's not organizing in general, because organizing is I think just like a hopeful and revolutionary thing that we can do to lead to this moment, to lead to this revolutionary moment. What I'm trying to more talk about is the moment after the revolution, the moment all this organizing culminates in this upending of the economic and the social order. And that's when I think that's when I think some of the not niceness is going to come into effect, where it's like, because a lot of organization and a lot of pain and blood and sweat and tears is going to go into creating this moment where the social and political and economic order is completely overthrown. And after that moment, that's not the end. That's only the beginning of something. That's only the beginning of the next phase of like of the work that needs to be done. Right? When we take this idea of revolution like it's the end of something, it certainly is, but it's like it's also the beginning of this whole new process in which there's going to be these forces of reaction, again, internally and externally, trying to undermine that and trying to overthrow it. And that's when that's why I think it's important to understand this concept of authoritarianism and what that means. Or like with the sort of Leninist definition of the state, when he talks about, the state, he identifies it as being this kind of institution whose whole purpose is for the people on the top of the upper classes to oppress everyone else on the bottom. And this process of revolution is not just about destroying the state, but it's about flipping that on its head so that the people that are currently doing the oppressing are being oppressed and being disenfranchised. That's the thing that I think makes people uncomfortable. Anyway, maybe we should table this theory discussion. This is just where my brain went when I was in my revolutionary defeatist mode. Well, I like talking about this too, Nicole, but also I get a little, like when you talk about like the not nice, I get a little uncomfortable getting into the specifics of that. I think, but that's where it's valuable to, I think, look through these things in history. Look at post-revolutionary China and what happened. Look at post-revolutionary USSR. And this is where we have to learn from different societies and cultures that have undergone these kind of large-scale upheavals in the past, and pay attention to what happened immediately after. It is an OPSEC issue. It's true. Yeah, look how horrible they are when they get ratioed. And imagine, like, think about how people have reacted to the idea of like giving land back to indigenous people. And yeah, imagine if an actual process of land reform actually happens in our society, how people are going to fucking react to it. And when people react to these big upheavals, if you're leading or running like a revolutionary society, what's your answer? What's your response to that? Oh, well, people are really mad, so maybe we should talk to them. Maybe should we come to some kind of like compromise? Right? Maybe both sides have a point. Maybe we should find some answer, some solution in the middle. Or do you say, fuck you, this is what we're doing, you can get on board, or we can work on somehow changing your dangerous and incorrect ideas into the correct ideas through some kind of a process of education, some kind of compulsory education that disabuses people of the harmful and dangerous and incorrect ideas that they have, and allows them to then eventually accept the correct good ideas. And not everyone's going to like that. Not everyone's going to like that, but these things are going to be necessary. If we ever get to this moment. I'm not convinced that we will in our lifetimes, but crazier things have happened. And if that ever does happen, we're going to have to be ready for this. and you're gonna have to have a steel yourself. We're all good people, and we all wanted the best for everyone. That's why you're a leftist, because you want the best for everyone. You want things to be better for everyone, but not everyone is going to be on board with this. And we can do what needs to be done and win, or we can falter and try to appease everyone and try not to give in to these tendencies of authoritarianism, and we can lose. But Obama said if I liked having to constantly compromise with the far right, that I could keep doing it. This is interesting, John McCain's Ghost. He says, from now, how I see it, and to be clear, I'm not steeped in theory, and neither am I, to be clear as well. But the idea of anarchism is basically the end goal of communism. I feel like the sticking point is this question of authority to reach that end goal. That's sometimes how it feels like to me a little bit, right? It's like, not to shit on anyone that's an anarchist. I've talked about how I think everyone knows where I stand on these kind of things, but it seems to me like it wants to skip ahead. It wants to skip ahead to the end goal without the decades or perhaps centuries of work to get us to that point. And it just kind of wants to skip all these really important steps because we might not like what these steps involve, and just skip ahead to the kind of post-scarcity, stateless, classless, non-authoritarian society that we all hope exists one day. I think that's an interesting way of kind of framing it. But it gets into, I saw you were having a bit of a discussion about this the other day, Nicole, and I think it gets into it answers some of these questions when you ask about like the Soviet Union and stuff like that, and were they communists? Was the Soviet Union communist? And it is an interesting question. But that's the thing is, like, I think it was these societies, or China's another example. It's communist in the sense that it's being led by communists. It's being led by the Communist Party and by people that describe themselves as communists. But ultimately, it's about this process. It's about this constant struggle that never stops until they've achieved this society that they want. And this struggle is occurring. With all kinds of limitations and contradictions. Like we pointed out before, there's no communism button you can just press. You can't just press the communism button because say, well, we're communists now. The Soviet Union, for example, is, how do you get from a society that's basically feudalist? It's basically a feudalistic society that's predominantly populated by millions of like uneducated peasants. How do you turn this society, this very poor society, into a mass industrial, almost superpower? These people were serfs. This is what I mean. In capitalism, you had hundreds of years for this process to kind of develop organically. And they find themselves in 1919 having overthrown their state, having overthrown the Tsarist system. They find themselves like with this kind of power, and what do you do, right? And not only how do you turn this very agrarian, rural, feudalistic society into a modern socialist society, again, very, very poor. How do you also deal with, then immediately it's being attempted to be overthrown. Immediately you have the West trying to invade, trying to take away everything that they fought for. Immediately, you got a civil war, immediately. these are all these contradictions that they have to try and organize around, and they have to try and create the society that they want with all these immense challenges and immense difficulties. Like, that's why we talk about, if people talk about Lenin and say, well, he was taking power away from workers, and like he was taking away these opposition parties. And that's kind of like, that's where this argument goes when you talk about this, is like they're dealing with, they've got the Western imperialists trying to overthrow them. You've got a civil war, and they have to literally just say, okay, we can have this like bullshit where we're going back and forth with these workers' opposition parties, or we can say no opposition right now. Sorry, it's not an option. Like, it's taking all these challenges, and this is where these contradictions emerge, and trying to synthesize this modern society out of this like fucking huge mess. And again, a society that's coming from a very poor starting point with a very uneducated population. This is what I mean. This is why the idea of dialectical and historical materialism is really important to try and understand. And I don't even know if I fully understand it. But it's trying to understand the way these societies develop and taking into account all this context, all this historical context, and understanding that these decisions that were made during this period were happening with all these contradictions and all these immense challenges happening at the same time. And that these decisions are being made with this kind of pressure. And when a society is developing like this, contradictions can appear, mistakes can be made, even crimes can be committed in some cases, which no doubt did happen in the Soviet Union. And I think if you're on the left, if you're a socialist, that's, I think, an important point of understanding this, of not just like whitewashing all that and pretending that everything was great or that it was some perfect utopia. It wasn't. But you have to understand why these things happened the way they did, why this history unfolded the way it did.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
October Revolution for life.
I know you get hung up on that, Nicole. It's just an easy way of describing something to me. People don't want to accept the fact that people will die when you try to run a society. It's just a fact, and it sucks. But if you look at the track record of what the communist parties have focused on, which is building reproductive forces to protect their societies from genocide, providing healthcare and housing and jobs. Okay, so some horrible shit will also happen. That doesn't deny that overall good communist projects have been for the workers. And we looked in the past too. I mean, Stalin has become the big boogeyman. By the way, thank you, Panda Dog, for the Prime. 10 months of Prime for Panda Dog. Thank you very much. If you look at just basic statistics about like living standards, life expectancy, education, the ability of people to like make a living, to have a place to live, housing, all this stuff. You might not like some of the things that happened, and I certainly don't either. The reality is, during this period, it was a massive historic achievement in terms of like people's ability to achieve this living standard. And we can compare it from the West and say like, well, look what was going on. They were living in these ratty apartments, living with a bunch of people at the same time. They didn't have this, they didn't have that. But overall, this transition from this feudalistic society, this rural, feudalistic, uneducated society of peasants to a relatively modern system where a lot of people had a significantly higher living standard than they had before. This is like an incredible achievement. That's not something that we should lose sight of. I feel like the Spanish Civil War is very instructive to teach why you might want to have a strong authoritarian communist state that ruthlessly suppresses antagonists. or Red Scary, or like examples like Chile, right? We talk about Allende a lot. Allende was a very inspiring figure who, you know, Fidel warned Allende. Allende had a AK that was gifted to him by Fidel because Fidel was like, you got to arm up. You got to arm the populace. You got to get serious here. You got to get tough. And Allende said, like, no, Fidel, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. But we're doing things our own way here, okay? We don't want to be too mean. We're doing things our own way, okay? We want to make sure everyone has enough. We want to, you know, we want to do it the right way. We don't want to be authoritarian. God bless him. And then look what's the result. You know? Exact same thing with Indonesia and Mao. Mao was telling Sukarno, Indonesia, the same thing. You got to arm the population. Oh, I know Allende was an anarchist. Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. But he was not. I don't think he was. He didn't listen to Fidel when Fidel told him, like, you got to get really serious with this and you got to arm your population. The same thing happened in Indonesia with Mao and Sukarno, where Mao said you got to arm the peasants, arm your population. They're going to come for you. You have to be ready for it. And it was the same kind of thing. And what does it turn into? You know, in both of these cases, it turns into Pinochet in Chile. And who is the military dictatorship in Indonesia? It was Suharto. General Suharto in Indonesia. Very similar. Thank you, Ian, DJ Cooper, and everyone. Very similar situation, though. You had, in both of those cases, you have Fidel saying, arm your population to Allende. He gets overthrown by Western imperialism. And the same thing, you have Mao telling Sukarno in Indonesia, arm the peasants, arm the population. He doesn't do it. Overthrown by Western imperialism. Both leading to brutal military dictatorships. Very deep into the kind of theory discussion here. I was not preparing for this. I literally was trying to talk about the liberals and the NDP today. You're describing a failure to resist authority, not a failure to express authority. Arming the peasants is quite the opposite of authoritarian. Well, maybe you're right, Matron's Militia. It's still, in terms of just a strategy, I think, something that could have saved the gains that these revolutionary societies were making. That these leaders at the time, for all the amazing things that they accomplished, were kind of unwilling to do. I guess that's part of what I wanted to talk about, though. You know, number one, you can feel this kind of sense of defeatism or doomerism, and it feels like everything's impossible. You feel like this revolutionary moment's just never going to come, and that's the way that every revolutionary society has felt right up until the fucking day it happened. And I guess it's just encouraging people not to lose sight of this idea that if this day does ever come, and who knows if it will, but
You can count
the
on
idea
me.
that that's
You're
just
gonna
going to
have good
be
old Rob to talk you through all this.
This discussion is needed. BC, we have no time to fake the funk.
Braided Jade. Thank you for the 8 months of tier 1. We have no time to fake the funk. Yeah, I think it's more of a metaphor, right? Obviously, it's not one day, Nicole, but I'm just talking about the moment, the moment this happens. I'd argue that it is happening. Fuck, I want to agree. But like lately, I've especially been feeling the sense that it's like not. It's really not. It's right now. It feels as far away as it ever has to me. The moment what happens? The moment when the economic order is overthrown, and that the power of the state is overthrown, and that the social order is completely overthrown. Revolution of everyday life and new Soviet man, dumb and problematic as it is, i.e. massive cultural changes, are just as important as securing the overthrow. Allende's downfall, it's also important to remember that for us as representatives of the popular forces, political freedom represents the achievement of the people on the difficult road to emancipation. It is an element of real achievement in the historical period that we are now leaving behind, and for this reason, freedom must remain. That's interesting, Bolden. Oh boy. So are you more or less optimistic than you were at the beginning of this conversation? You more or less optimistic? I don't know how I feel. I'm still not sure. I'm Robtimistic. Oh, that's nice. I'm 100% doom-pilled and Rob made me so. Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. I guess, I think it's part of the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because right now, this idea of like people being uncomfortable of wielding this kind of authority against people that are going to try and subvert what we want. We should have no illusions that the reactionaries are going to have zero problem wielding that authority against us when the time comes. And I think that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, is because right now it feels like we're heading more towards that moment where we are going to be the subject of this kind of persecution. That's kind of feels like what is the more likely scenario for me at this moment. This kind of red scare, this kind of new red scare that we've been talking about over the last year, which seems like it's now getting kicked into high gear, right? I think it's much more likely, because that's why we should not pretend that if this moment ever comes where some kind of left, such as it is able to wield this kind of power, we can't hesitate to use it to entrench what we need, because certainly the reactionaries are not going to hesitate to use it, and nor have they ever hesitated to use this brutal, violent authoritarianism to entrench their own gains and their own culture. They're not going to hesitate to use it against us. What Rob was trying to say is AOC 2024. Just vote blue no matter who, and we should be good to go. I mean, like, Does they know that, like, look at the ways that the establishment reacted just to, like, Bernie and Corbyn, right? Look how willing they are to circle the wagons to protect anything, protect even the very mild reforms, like social democratic reforms. People, like, if AOC ever did win the Democratic nomination or even became president, this is where the whole this contradiction emerges, because people will lose their fucking minds. They will treat that as if their society is being overthrown, even though, as we all know, I don't think anything, if AOC did get elected, she would be trying to, like, give people health care, maybe trying to do a few things more equitable, a little bit of, like, economic redistribution. They will react to that just as much hostility as they would to, like, any of, like, real, genuine, actual upending of the economic or the social order. Which is exactly why that you can see what that approach, while I think noble, I think it's a good thing to want to fight for, is still, like, ultimately not going to deliver these gains. I'll never forget Chris Matthews crying on TV saying if Bernie was president, he'd be shot in Times Square. I mean, this is what these people think about social democracy. Anyway, I guess, I mean, that's the only point that I wanted to initiate by kind of having this discussion. How, this idea of having some kind of a revolution in our economic order or social order can feel very far away, but it felt very far away to the central figures in revolutionary societies in the past as well. When Lenin was hanging out in fucking Switzerland in 1917 or whatever, just like, this shit is never going to happen. And, like, 3 years later, he's like, sitting there trying to figure out how to organize a brand new society with this completely different way of doing things in motor production. So we shouldn't lose sight of that, but we should also not lose sight of the fact that if this time does come, maybe it will, maybe it won't. We can't pretend that that's going to be, like, some kind of end point, and that we're not going to have to get our hands a little dirty protecting the things that we're trying to create. Gas hitting $8 a gallon is basically breadline shit. And, like the fucking housing market in Canada, it's like fucking Weimar Republic, wheelbarrow full of cash ass economy that we're heading into right now, which is only going to get worse over the next couple of months and years. I'm pretty sure civilization is going to collapse. We'll go extinct due to climate change and peak oil, but both of those things have very unpredictable timelines. They definitely require and will give chances and motivation for big changes, though. That is certainly true. That is certainly true. The scary thing is that the changes could be much worse than anything that we're going through now. And I think we're pretty resilient. I don't think people will ever go extinct. Neo-feudalism is on the rise already. Yeah, we're headed towards this kind of, like, technocratic neo-feudalism, I think. That's kind of that's what's on the horizon right now. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that way, but that's going to take work, and it's going to involve getting our hands dirty, whether you like it or not. And I don't like it, to be clear, in case anyone ever watches this and says, this guy sounds like a violent authoritarian or anything like that. Not at all. I detest violence. I don't even like getting in confrontations with people. I don't even like getting in verbal confrontations with people. It's more just about being realistic about what's going to be necessary. You know? That's all. Hair is not really doing what I want it to do as well. Well, Bad Bunny, I do encourage people to watch Red Planet on Bad Bunny's channel because I think it's like I said earlier on, I think focusing on these concrete steps that we can take to get to this point is extremely important right now, just in terms of having a sort of optimism. Like I said, just being optimistic about our possibilities of organizing for a better future is revolutionary in and of itself. So that's why I appreciate what you do on your channel, Nicole. On Red Planet, which takes place on Sundays on Bad Bunny's Twitch channel, who's going to be rebranding soon. Takes place on Sundays at 5 Eastern? About? Something like that. It's around that. It's around that time. But look at Nicole's channel for more details. And she's asked me to appear on, and as an unofficial Red Planet co-host, I do intend to appear on the show sometime, but I don't. The main thing about Red Planet, I guess, is that they seem like good at like doing stuff. That's kind of the main thing that's hampering my ability to do this, because I don't really do any. I just talk on the internet. That's what I'm good at. That's the thing that I'm really good at, is just talking shit on the internet. I'm good at doing that. Come on and talk about basketball. Yeah, I could do that too. Getting fit, getting ripped. That's my main thing. A fascist hoop today. Did you hoop? This is the question. Stacking apes. Did you practice beef today? A fascist did. That's right. It's time to talk about real theory. New moon. I saw the new moon viewing was going on in the Discord. How many apes before socialism? At least 5 or 6. Once we each have 6 apes, then we should be good to go. Your job won't fire you for being a card-carrying member. Join up. I don't even have... This is my actual job. This is my job. But I also do like I said, I think when it comes to becoming a card-carrying member of any revolutionary party, I do find it's important to follow the party line, but I also don't really like being beholden to it. Does that make sense? Speaking of this being my job, I'm a free-thinking individual, that's right. Speaking of this being my job, and speaking of how this is eventually planning to, we're gonna have our own commune. You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle. You're not letting me do it. You're not letting me do it. Gen X Bushy, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Let's just get some of this shit out of the way, and then I'll talk about the NDP and the Liberals and all that stuff. Can you tell I'm low energy? You can't even tell, right? Thank you so much, Gen X Bushy. I really appreciate it. Librarian, thanks for the 420.
Remember that I got some mangoes in the bunker.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old
Like
Rob
no
to talk you
other.
through all this.
For you know it, you'll be on your knees. Jesus,
You can count on me.
easy
You're gonna have
love.
good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Plunger Man, thank you for the gifted sub. Plunger Man, thank you 10,000 sandwiches for the gifted sub also.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to
Taking
talk you through all
hold
this.
of. Better forget it. You'll never get it. Ian DJ Cooper, thanks for the 7 months of tier 1. Leave you with the same you. Better forget it. Oh,
We
you'll
simply
regret
use the
it.
computer to mark up the size of the account.
This one's going out to Mike, hashtag Team Mike.
Thank you very much, Pissed, for the 200 friend coin. And thank you so much, Bad Bunny.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship
Oh
Triangle.
my gosh. That's because I'm singing, right? Is that
You
it?
can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Bella Swan Caucus Rising.
Thank you very, very much, Bad Bunny, for 5 gifted subs. That's really very kind of you, Nicole. Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you, Bolden, as well, for the 7 months of tier 1.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Keep it normal. Team Mike, rise up.
Thank you, G. Cluppy. Thank you, G. Cluppy, for the 200 friend coin. You'll never know. They really transcribed the whole solo,
This is
too.
some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based
boy.
in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Lucid Fox, thank you so much for the raid. Thank you very much, Lucid. Hell yeah, welcome on in, raiders. Just some totally normal stuff happening over here. Just some totally normal stuff going on. Thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate that, Lucid. How was your stream today? I'm Rob, everyone. Welcome. Not Rib. Not Rib.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Comrade Social Distancing, thanks for the gifted sub. Hey, lover, get a hold on you, believe it. He's like no other. You know it, you'll be on your knees. She's an easy lover. Hard, but you won't feel it. You're the guy with the good Twitter takes. That's me. That's right, Cosmic. That's correct.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to
Where's
talk
the
you
sick
through all
individual
this.
clip from? It's from InfoWars.
TRRS Guns.
It's from InfoWars. I appeared on InfoWars. Thank you, Maverick, for the gifted sub as well. Okay, hold on. I got another one here. Oh, here's a good one. Classic track here. Ready for this?
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I don't wanna use your love tonight. Kijiji Genie, thanks for the gifted sub. You're undercover. I just wanna use your love tonight. I don't wanna lose your love tonight. Let's do it. Karaoke. Hell yeah. Do they have a MIDI of Angel as the centerfold? I do not know if they do. I'm not familiar with that song. Any more sub possibilities, folks? I'm going to get on to talking about serious political issues back in another moment.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I have just resubbed. Thank you, Rob, for the content.
Thank you, Osori.
Count on me. You're going to have good old
9 months of
Rob
Prime.
to,
Thank you
talk
very
through all
much.
this.
Straight out of rehab. Thank you for the 5 months of Tier 1. We got 30 more seconds. I gotta put on this next one though. This playlist is great. This one is. I played this the other day, but this one's excellent though.
People to another episode of.
Whoa, nope, that's not what I want. It's this. When that chorus hits, God, it's even in the Genesis version, it's great. It's tremendous. This song putting me in a revolutionary mindset. We like to have fun here, Super. It's not all this grim and heavy theory stuff, is it? We like to have fun as well. Music will not be like. We're gonna have great tunes in the TRRS compound. Absolutely. I didn't get any. I don't think I got one sub in that last 3 minutes of dancing, but you know what? It's okay. I don't care. I don't dance for. You think I'm just dancing for subs? You think I'm just dancing for subs here? I do it because for the love of the game. All right. I do it because I enjoy it. Dancer for money. I could do that one next. I'm your private dancer. For the love of the slub. That's right, Ghost. You're vibing too hard. It's kind of your fault. I guess that is kind of my own fault.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Alana, for the gifted sub. Remember when Rob used to do this on every stream? He's gotten too complacent. That's right.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
That sub is for the dancing. Thank you, Alana. I appreciate that. Thank you for supporting me. I knew it was just because you were enjoying yourself and didn't want to interrupt by donating thousands of dollars. That's right. Thank you, Super. Stripper Rob. I mean, it's the next logical progression, isn't it? It's the next logical progression. I gotta put on my little John Hughes mix again. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom. I haven't even drinking any of that water. That whole thing of water, I've not had one sip. I've not even had one sip. Unbelievable, but I still have to go to the bathroom now. Where's the one? Okay, it's this one. See you in a minute. Hello. I'm back. I'm back, gang. That was quick. Oh, good. We got friend of the stream, CDN123, whispering to me again. We've got friend of the stream, CDN123, whispering to me once again. Let's see what this fine, upstanding individual has to say. Let's see here. CDN123. Today, 208. Harassing the streamer through whispers is going to let... This is CDN123, friend of the stream. We always love to hear from our friends across the ideological spectrum. Thank you for weighing in once again. CDN123 says harassing the streamer through whispers is going to lead to Twitch being notified for harassment. Please report me, you cuck. You tankies always try and never succeeds because you are not creating a safe space for everyone on Twitch. You guys always try to mass report me. My account is original, 13 years old. Fuck you, Nazis, he says. Do you have anything? Is that all? CDN123, do you have anything else you want to share with us? They were really going off yesterday. Like, what was it? Like fucking 20 to 30 messages. Just a very normal, just a normal individual. Is his account 13 years old, or was he saying that he's 13 years old? This is just a sample from yesterday. I just posted it in the chat, by the way. Just a little sample. This is a safe space for everyone except CDN123 specifically. What do you... Okay, we're hearing from more. We're hearing more here. What do you want to unban me so I can show people what a hypocrite you are? No, I don't think I will, CDN. Why don't you just sit down and just watch the stream and shut the fuck up? How about that? That's what I would prefer, personally. That would be my preference. I don't think there will be any unbanning that is going on. Now I'll leave. I just wanted to remind you of your sad life. Actually, my life is quite nice, CDN. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, though. I'm actually quite I can't believe this is my life. You know? I had a beautiful son. I have a community here that comes and hangs out with me and respects me sometimes.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Excuse
I get to talk
me,
about...
Mr. Rob. Are some of us chatters late for the 2 p.m. free ape giveaway? Fun pausers TRRS marks hey guys 100 hey guys 100.
Thank you, Useless. Yeah, the ape giveaway will be happening anytime now. We're all going to be stacking lots of apes today. Not CDN though. No apes for you, sir. You're fucking hilarious, bro. See ya. Don't quit your day job, you clown. CDN, this actually is my day job. You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle. This actually is my day job. I'm very fortunate to be able to... You're here on Twitch 13 years, and you can't do shit. That's very unfortunate. Oh my goodness. And Cormiz. Look at that. Cormiz. Thank you very, very much for the 11 gifted subs. That's very kind of you. That's very generous of you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. CDN, you're spending your day harassing random people on Twitch. This is not good. Don't you have a day job of some kind? Are you at your job right now? I mean, I guess it's time theft. I guess we've got to appreciate that. We love hearing from fans of the show. Listen. Always happy to hear from different fans and friends of the show. From across the ideological spectrum. Friends, god damn it. God damn it. What's the prediction? I can't see it. Where do I see the prediction? What was the question? Oh, pick a side. Come on, this is an easy one, folks. This is easy. I think I've already made my stance on being Team Edward for life. I think I made this very clear already. I don't fuck around. I don't take this shit seriously, okay? Team Jacob. Get lost, bozo. CDN unironically still calls people tankies, which is funny in and of itself. They're not sending the haters and losers in the peanut gallery are not sending their best, Lucid. They're not sending their best. I'm happy to be among Rob's token anarchist communist friends. Absolutely, Praxid. Absolutely. But of course, I am, as I already explained, Team Edward for life. I'm Team Bella because it's International Women's Month, Rob. Oh my gosh. I've been exposed again. I've been exposed again. Okay, well, I promised you I was going to hydrate today. With my, inspirational water bottle here. Thank you again to Cormiz for the 11 gifted subs. That was very kind of you. Thank you so much. I promised you a hydrated streamer today. Look at that. I already made it through my... That's supposed to get me from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Just made through it. It is really funny to... I'm a woman. I'm giving Lucid Fox a standing ovation for this brave stance. Thank you, Red Scary. It is funny to me that, of all the things that have gone wrong in, industrial society, modern industrial society, it's basically like a miracle. It's like a fucking miracle that we have this unlimited supply. If you're fortunate, I mean, not everyone in living in this Western industrialized society has this, obviously, but it's basically a miracle of modern engineering that you have this unlimited supply of clean, drinkable water. It's truly incredible to even think about. It's almost unfathomable, to think about this. And I'm just give me some carbonated flavor chemicals in there. Ugh. Clean, fresh drinking water that just comes out anytime that I want. Ugh. I need some caffeine and some sugary fucking energy drink chemicals in there in order to enjoy that. I need my liquid treats. Yeah, fake sugary. That's right. Fake sugary. I need some aspartame. I can't enjoy this shit without some chemical compound That's been designed to trick our brains into thinking that it's like sugar. Once Nestle privatizes all of it, that will be great, though. Have you seen those like water review guys? Those YouTube like water review guys or TikTok water review guys? Did anyone see that viral TikTok where the guy was like, this is processed tap. You don't drink this. It's processed tap. Shit. Oh, it's this guy. You see this guy?
Hello everybody, it's Martin, your personal water sommelier. I'm in front of a CVS pharmacy, so let's check out the water aisle at CVS. Okay, we have 3 different refrigerators, so let's check it out. Let's open this. So we started with Ice Canyon Natural Spring Water. Good water. Then Sartre Hill, I did the review already in Florida. A little problematic because there are like so many different ones out there. They're coming from 5 different sources, so you really don't know which one you're getting. But it's at least a spring source. Aquafina from Pepsi, processed tap. Dasani, the same from Coca-Cola, processed tap. Don't buy that. Ice Canyon again, what I consider a good water. Here we go. Evian, great water. Then we have pure water. Already the name says it, pure. So it's highly processed tap water. Don't buy that. Just Water is a great water, great packaging, sustainable source.
I gotta give it up for this guy though. I started watching this video and I was ready to not like it. I was ready to not like this. Then he really wins me over. He won me over the course of this video. It's like I trust this man. I trust this man to tell me which is the good water and which is not the good water. It all kind of tastes the same to me, frankly. Water to me is just water. That's the whole thing about it, is that it doesn't taste like anything. I believe this, though. I trust this man. I would trust this man with my life. Don't get tripped by German accents. When the water bottles go up, who don't care when they come down? Easily fooled by a German accent. No one that speaks German could be a bad person. I have to buy bottled water. I get smart water, so it can be more like Jennifer Aniston. It's my most capitalist act. Let's see if this guy can inform us still about this.
Most water. I like that water. Then we have again purified water from Big Chill. Forget it. It's tap. Essentia. I talk so many times about Essentia. It's highly processed tap water. Don't buy that stuff. Fiji, great water from the Fiji Islands. That's a very good water. We talked about Evian, great water from the French Alps. Dasani and Aquafina, forget about it. And in the next one, Boss, please be careful.
With Dasani and Aquafina, he's just like, I don't even want to talk. Don't even fucking waste my time with this shit. I didn't waste my time with this. Get this shit out of my face.
With Boss, they have the regular water. That's an artesian water from Norway.
This is capitalism for you. He's gonna listen. This is how they get you. Pay attention to this part.
And in the next one, Voss. Please be careful with Voss.
You gotta be very careful.
The regular water. That's an artesian water from Norway. Versus their flavored water. This is purified water, guys. This has nothing to do with the Voss water from Norway. It's the
They're
same
not using
label,
the same
it's the
water,
same company,
folks.
but it's a totally different source. That's tap, that is real. Don't buy the processed stuff. Core, live water, forget it. Highly processed tap water. Smart water, I talked so many times about smart water. I hate smart water, it's disgusting. I would never...
You hear that, G Cluppy? You hear that? This is one more time here. One more time here.
Smart water, I talked so many times about smart water. I hate smart water, it's disgusting. I would never touch that smart water stuff. Again, the smart water, alkaline water, completely BS and bullshit because the pH doesn't matter what you're gonna drink. So don't believe in this, please. And then again, purified water, Poland Springs, real water.
G Cluppy on suicide
This is
watch.
okay. pH water is completely nonsense. Then the eternal water, great water, this is actually good. And Aquatrana makes sense as well. But the rest, forget, it's nothing else than highly processed tap water. Cheers, my friends. Hello, everybody. Here's Martin.
He doesn't really... He doesn't really outline like what makes why it's bad. Why tap water is bad. I mean, it's still drinkable. Right? It is just water at the end of the day. He uses that as just like if it's highly processed tap, you want nothing to do with it. Get that shit out of my face. He's done all the work. He's just telling you the results. There's different minerals and shit. Okay. Personally, I think capitalism is worth it for all these varieties of tap water. That's right. Only under capitalism can you have access to this amazing system. The processing in tap water is to get rid of bacteria and to protect your teeth. Red Scary, this is right up your alley, this shit. Mine also adds IQ. That's right. That's how they put special chemicals in there. They make you smarter. Think about all the people in the third world suffering just so I can say no thank you to highly processed Danish bottled tap water. Don't even waste my fucking time at this. They add more water to the processed water, making it too hydrating. They're more water per water. That's right. Don't even get me started on Poland strings. What's this guy's take on vaccines? That I'm not sure. Again, I trust him though.
Hello, everybody. Here's Martin, your personal water sommelier. I just
your
finished
personal
a 2-hour
water sommelier.
Water tasting.
Listen, I know the future sucks, okay? I know the future's not what anyone expected. I know it's not what anyone expected. I know it's depressing and it's stupid, first and foremost. And a lot of our technology seems to be literally getting worse rather than better. Why does my phone not have a headphone jack anymore? Why do I not have a headphone jack? I get those headphones with the USB-C. It stopped working after like 6 months. I gotta fiddle with it for 10 minutes to get one ear to play out of my headphones now. This is something that was solved in the fucking 1970s. We're going backwards. In many ways. But you can log on to social media, social networks, and have a personal water sommelier. So who's to say if it's bad or good? Right? Who's to say if it's bad or good? I don't know. The future is now. It is the Strange Love look.
On Zoom, it was a virtual tasting. I invited 40 different people. They could sign up to my tasting and we discussed everything about water. It was fascinating. I loved all the questions. I love to do these tastings because I want to engage with you. And this is always fun. So I want to showcase a little bit what kind of waters we tasted today. Okay, we started with Evian from Evian Lampo with a TDS of 340. Then we had Iskilde water from Denmark with a TDS of 320.
What's a TDS?
Then we went to Three Bays from down under, from Australia. TDS of 1,300. Very creamy, almost like olive oily in the taste.
What's a TDS? He's just assuming that we know what that is. A creamy, almost olive oily taste. Dissolved solids and minerals. TDS most commonly refer to the levels of dissolved ions in your water like calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, and nitrates. They naturally occur in waters after it filters through bedrock and soil. Okay. Total dissolved solids. I see. Okay. TDS, more like Trump derangement syndrome. Oh my goodness.
Then we discussed a little bit about where is water actually coming from. This is a 150-year-old water bottle from Germany. This is what water used to look like back in the days. Then we talked about the Queen's water. Hilden, look at this. The official water of the Buckingham Palace with the symbol of the Buckingham Palace in it. Tiny bubbles, TDS of 340. Please be careful when you're drinking this water. Your arm will do like this. Then we had Farewell. This is the #1 consumed sparkling water in Italy. This is a natural occurring sparkling water. They don't add the bubbles in there. This comes from nature like that. TDS over 1,200. And then last but not least, we had Vichy Catalan from Spain, a high mineral content water from the Catalonia area. TDS of 3,054. That's my barbecue water. This is actually pretty cool. Then we talked a little bit about Sky Vodka. Now you would say, like, what? In a water tasting you're talking about Sky Vodka? Yes, because, do you know what they're doing? They're adding minerals, specific minerals to Sky Vodka to enhance the flavors. And I help them actually. So when you're drinking now the new Sky, you will have a little of my taste profile in the new Sky Vodka. And we talked what is very interesting about San Gero. This is a German brand. This is not bottled water by the German government. It looks like a bottle of water. I totally get it. But this is actually falling under the medication law in Germany. But this is not enhanced water or something where they're adding something to it. This is a natural occurring water from Germany, from a spring source. We have over 60 brands who are falling under the medication law in Germany. They even have a medication number printed right here.
Wow.
And looks like a medication because all this stuff and all the minerals, they're saying what this water actually does when you're drinking this. So again, we totally get it. Water is not just water, and maybe you're gonna catch me next time on my water tasting. Cheers, my friends.
Thank you, Martin. That glass, though. Yeah. Medical water. We don't talk about this enough. We've got to seize the means of medicinal water production. You think he's into homeopathy? He seems to be only really strictly water guy. This is his whole thing, his whole brand. 160K followers. Exploring our most precious resource, world's water sommelier and advocate. Nothing about vaccines. This guy's a water guy only. Water only. All water all the time. That's his brand, and I respect it, frankly. So I become an engineer that learns tons of rando stuff, but I wasn't smart enough to focus on something as simple but genius as what this dude does. But he also makes good money because of his expertise. That's right, he's a water influencer. Good work if you can get it. Yeah, Coke used to be medicine too, idiot. It still is my fave medicine. I 100% always buy a Coke when I'm feeling ill, and I swear it works. It settles the stomach, okay? That's science. That's science. I think they should go back to putting cocaine in there, though. It would be even better medicine in that case. That would be really good medicine, if you could start doing that. Very interesting. Should we I have one more hour here, like less than an hour. Should I get to the actual subject that I was planning on talking about today? This whole like liberal NDP agreement that happened? This is the whole point of doing this whole stream today. And I ended up talking about how I'm an authoritarian, and then dancing, and then doing water sommelier reviews, video reviews. Got a little sidetracked. It is your show. That's true, Rylan. It is. I feel like it is important to focus on this, but I guess, we don't need to spend the whole fucking day talking about it. How does our butcher sommelier so badly? I'm not butchering it. That's how you say it. Sommelier. I'm saying it right. It's all you. It's you that's not saying it wrong. Wait. God damn it. That's good. That's good stuff. What? We can take a little time to talk about this. Okay, we don't need to spend hours and hours and hours talking about it. But it's a big political news in Canada. We've been talking a lot about Ukraine and Russia and foreign policy and that kind of stuff. We can take a little bit of time today to talk about these new... Oh, shit. Okay, let's not just start looking at this, though. Okay, focus. Focus over here. Focus, folks. So if you're not if you're not from Canada, this is the big news going on in Canada today. As you know, or you may know, you may not know, that Canada has a system of government known as a liberal democracy, a parliamentary democracy. And this is the big news today, which is that the Liberal Party, which is Justin Trudeau's political party, who run the government right now. They're the party that's in charge of the government, despite being actually voted on by a very small percentage of people in the country. It is a minority, so they may have a minority of seats. They do not have a majority of seats in our parliament in order to pass legislation. Like, you need a certain number of seats within the parliament in order to see, so you can pass legislation without having to go to other parties to negotiate with them and to cut deals with the other parties. Now entering the Canada zone. That's right. So that means that the NDP, the New Democratic Party, who's kind of like supposed to be the more left-wing party, the sort of social democratic party in the Canadian government, they don't have a ton of seats in our parliament, but because the Liberals are a minority government, they have to cut deals with the other parties in order to continue the government without collapsing the government and leading to another election. That was kind of one of the concerns after this previous election, that we might just be headed back to another election in a really short period, because these kind of minority governments can lead to that kind of instability. And this has always been kind of like the positive possibility about the NDP, is that even though they've actually lost seats in our parliament over the last couple of election cycles, despite the conditions being there for the NDP to really actually do better, they've actually done much worse. And they have not organized, and they've not really risen to the moment, or they've risen to the challenge and established themselves as a viable alternative to the never-ending liberal and conservative hegemony that we have in our government. But the whole thing was, because it's a minority government, the NDP, even though they have less seats, would have sort of more power within our parliamentary democracy to extract concessions from the Liberal Party, because they need other political parties, either the NDP or the Conservatives or the Bloc Québécois, to help them pass their agenda, to pass their budgets, and to keep the government going. So this is the big news that has happened now, is that the NDP have they went to the negotiating table with the Liberal Party, and they've cut this deal with Justin Trudeau and with the Liberals to basically guarantee that they'll keep the government going for the next few years, as long as the Liberal Party gave up some things and proposes an agenda that's favorable to them. So you can imagine that the idea was that this, involved some kind of negotiation. They need the NDP to keep the government going. So they will see now, when we take a look at this deal, what concessions the NDP was able to make. And whether they were able to kind of negotiate and really be forceful in this negotiation and get the Liberal to pass legislation that the NDP's constituency wants. Which, in theory, this doesn't sound all that bad. In theory, this is kind of almost the best case scenario that we can hope for out of our parliamentary democracy. For this Social Democratic Party to force the sort of ruling neoliberal party to actually pass legislation that helps people in order to guarantee their continued cooperation in the government. In theory, this is what's going to happen. We must be getting dental and pharmacare, right? Well, that's the NDP's been promising this for a while. They've been campaigning on it. So we're going to see. But we're going to explore right now, over the next 45 minutes, the deal that the NDP made with the Liberal Party in order to keep the government going. In case you're not familiar with how this shit works, just kind of reorient you here. The Liberals ran on universal pharmacare 20 years ago. This is true. This is very true. So the NDP has issued a news release that outlines how large and comprehensive this deal is with the Liberals. We'll post the 6 parts in thread to follow.
This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Oh my goodness. Sam Cedar, what a fucking nightmare. Remember that? Remember when Steven Crowder cried because Sam Cedar showed up? He was just terrified. He was so terrified. Thank you very, very much for the raid majority report. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'm Rob Rousseau. You might know me from Twitter. You might know me from Twitch, maybe. I don't know. You might not know me at all. Who am I? I don't know. I'm just a guy. I host a podcast called The Insurgents, and I also do this show Monday through Friday, The Rob Rousseau Show, right here on Twitch. Thanks for joining us. We're doing Canada Hour right now. We're talking about Canada. I'm Canadian. I live here in Montreal. And so if you're Canadian, this is going to be interesting to you. If you want to know what's going on within Canada's liberal democracy, in our parliamentary democracy, I suggest you stick around if you're kind of interested in this. And frankly, this is exactly why I think this subject should be interesting to like progressive Americans as well, and like, you know, Democrats, but progressive Democrats. Often we hear about in sort of discourse around American politics, and I mean with like progressive Democrats, this idea that, well, if we just had a third party, or if the progressive wing of the party was able to like extract more concessions from kind of the centrists or the establishment, what would that look like? And I think what we're looking at right now with this deal that the Liberal Party just made with the NDP, who's like the Social Democratic Party in our parliamentary system, I think this is an example of what if you had like a third progressive party in the United States, if Pramila Jayapal and AOC and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush and all these kind of progressive politicians in America, if they formed their own kind of block, either as their own party or formed a more forceful block within the Democratic Party, and said to the centrist establishment, the Pelosi's and the Schumers and these types, if you want to pass legislation, you're going to do some things for us. I think this is like, if you're a progressive Democrat, this is often like what the ask is. It's like you want your progressives in Congress to be more forceful and to like really extract legitimate, genuine concessions from the sort of neoliberals in charge of the Democratic Party. So what we're seeing right now in Canada with the Liberal Party and the NDP, I think is an example of what exactly that looks like in practice. And this is what happened is that last night, the Liberal Party, led by Justin Trudeau, cut a deal with the NDP in the Canadian government to continue to keep the government going for the next few years, and ostensibly have committed to some concessions, to some policy initiatives that's favorable to the NDP, and we're going to explore what those are right now. So here's from the NDP's statement. And this is what the NDP's spin. I think we're gonna look at the liberal version too. So these are the concessions now that has been extracted as part of this negotiation process between the NDP and the Liberals. The NDP is still run by the exact same people from over a decade ago, stale and loserish. I agree. Let's listen some of this rhetoric here. So number one, a better healthcare system. And again, the NDP has been promising pharmacare, dental. You know, as you might hear often in Canada, we do have a single payer healthcare system, but it's not really universal. Pharmaceutical drugs are not included, like you need private insurance for that. Dental care not included. Mental health care not included. And the NDP has been ostensibly campaigning on the idea that we need to extend this kind of stuff to all these different avenues of healthcare that are not covered under our universal system. So you would think, in this case, for example, that this kind of demand, this kind of request for demand for universal pharmacare, or dental care would be part of this demand. Jagmeet already said there won't be a means test. It's universal. I don't know if that matches up to the rhetoric that we're seeing here, though. I don't know if that matches up. Let's take a look at this. I mean, this is from the NDP statement as well. This is from the NDP statement. Launching a new dental care program for low-income Canadians. So, first sentence. It seems like it's a means test to me. Would start with under 12-year-olds in 2022, then expand to under 18-year-olds, seniors, and persons living with a disability in 2023, then full implementation by 2025. The program would be restricted to families with an income of less than $90,000 annually, with no co-pays for anyone under $70,000 annually in income. That seems like a means test to me. Am I crazy about that? Isn't that like the very definition of means testing? L plus ratio plus NDP fell off. Why did they need 3 years for this program? Who knows? Who knows? This seems like a means test to me. I don't know. When it's literally available for income of less, that's a means test. Less than $90,000 annually with no co-pays for anyone under $70,000 annually. That's what a means test is. Continuing progress towards a universal national pharmacare program by passing a Canada Pharmacare Act by the end of 23. Why do we need 2 more years for that? Who knows? And then tasking the National Drug Agency to develop a national formulary of essential medicines and bulk purchasing plan by the end of the agreement. Okay. Recognizing that health systems have been stretched because of COVID, the parties realize that additional ongoing investments will be needed in the immediate future to address these pressures. We will work with the provinces and territories to determine how together we can deliver better health outcomes for Canadians, including more primary care doctors and nurses, mental health support, aging at home, and better data. This is very inspiring stuff. Watch Singh's press conference from this morning. No means test. Okay. Is it in this press conference? Is it different from what is being described in this official NDP press release, in which it clearly indicates that there's a means test? Is he just calling it not a means test? Because if it's just the words. We all know the NDP is good at using words that make people think that what they're doing is good, while not always backing that up with concrete action. Who says you can't vote your way to revolution? This is exactly right. This is exactly right. Tabling a safe long-term care act to ensure that seniors are guaranteed the care they deserve no matter where they live. So it's very vague. Again, long-term care centers have been a site of a lot of horrifying shit over the course of the COVID era. These privatized long-term care facilities. Workers there have been abused. Residents there have been abused. They've become sites of mass infection and death. Again, the idea that's ensure seniors are guaranteed the care they deserve no matter where they live. Completely vague, no promises, no, we should be talking about nationalizing our long-term care centers. That's obviously not on the table. 2. Here we go. Here's the really exciting stuff. Making life more affordable for people. Extending the Rapid Housing Initiative for an additional year. Refocusing the Rental Construction Financing Initiative on affordable units under 80% AMR and use 80% AMR or below as a definition of affordable housing. This should do the trick. I think this should do the trick. In our completely fucking outrageous Weimar Republic ass housing bubble, close to collapse system, I'm sure this is going to get the job done. And yeah, Piss said, can't wait for 3 years from now when I don't qualify for this and am still extremely poor. Yeah, great stuff. Moving forward on launching a housing accelerator fund, implementing a home buyer's bill of rights, and tackling the financialization of the housing market by the end of 2023. Tackling how? We don't know. Including a $500 one-time top-up of the Canada Housing Benefit in 2022, which would be renewed in coming years if cost of living challenges remain. A $500 one-time top-up to the housing benefit, okay? Through introducing an Early Learning and Childcare Act by the end of 2022, ensuring that childcare agreements have long-term protected funding that prioritizes nonprofit and public spaces to deliver high-quality, affordable childcare opportunities for families. This is just inspiring shit. You can see why the conservatives in this country are reacting like we're instituting full communism is being smuggled into the country with this kind of really dangerous revolutionary rhetoric. Delivering high-quality, affordable childcare opportunities. Wow. That's really exciting stuff. Again, there used to be a time on the left when you could say, like, I support universal free childcare. I support universal free pharmacare, free dental care. It would be nice if maybe this kind of language, instead of just this watered-down neoliberal pablum. And again, this is what the NDP is like. These are the concessions they've extracted. We're going to get more into this, but again, this is like, there's a long history of the NDP basically proposing kind of sensible legislation that the Liberals then eventually, after negotiation and after those kind of process, implement and then kind of take credit for. And here's the problem that we're kind of running into, I think, when we're looking at these lists of different concessions that have taken place here, which is that this is already being rolled out with this very uninspiring, neoliberal, means-tested, affordable opportunity kind of rhetoric. Like, this is like, the NDP has they can choose when this government continues or whether it collapses. Like, they have power in this negotiation to extract meaningful concessions. And all it seems like they've extracted are things that the Liberals have already been campaigning on already, and it's already being rolled out with this. And this is the NDP version of the press release, by the way. And it's already being rolled out with this kind of like uninspiring, tepid neoliberal language. That is a bad sign. Where's the rest of your thread, Susan? You didn't post it in the thread. Okay, here, well, we talked earlier about the climate crisis and how dangerous that is, right? And how much of a moment that is where the left could really extract really meaningful, profound changes in our society. So 3, tackling the climate crisis and creating good-paying jobs. Advancing measures to achieve significant emissions reductions by 2030 compared to 2005 levels, which we've been said that over and over for decades and decades. Like, this is already what the Liberals have been saying. Significant emissions reductions by 2030 compared to 2005 levels. This is when I want to start to wonder, I've asked this before on this show, like, how many times we have to say, oh, yeah, we're going to hit these targets by this year. Now we're really serious about it. I don't know why we're expected to believe that this is going to be meaningful this time. Continue to identify ways to further accelerate the trajectory to achieve net zero emissions no later than 2050. Ding, 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 net zero. Talk about some neoliberal pablum. Moving forward in 2022 on the creation of the Clean Jobs Training Center to support workers' retention, redeployment, and training. Moving forward with just transition legislation guided by the feedback we receive from workers, unions, indigenous peoples, communities, and provinces and territories. Developing a plan to phase out public financing in the fossil fuel sector. Developing a plan to phase out public financing of fossil fuels, including from crown corporations including early moves in 2022. Again, really inspiring stuff that really meets the seriousness of this moment. They're developing a plan to phase these things out. They're developing a plan to phase this out. Are you not inspired by this? How can you not want to just bend over backwards to continue supporting these parties? Moving forward in 2022 on home energy efficiency programs that both enhance energy affordability for Canadians and reduce emissions, with investments to support multiple streams, including low-income and multi-unit residential apartments. We'll also ensure that this funding includes support for creating Canadian supply chains for this work to ensure the jobs stay in Canada and that we create the skills to export these valuable energy efficiency products around the world. So those are the climate. Those are the climate concessions that they've extracted as part of like agreeing to keep the government going. Again, in this moment where we're literally faced with like the horrific, massive refugee crises across the global south, huge disruptions to the supply chain, potential mass death incidents, and this is where our rhetoric is moving into 2022. Tar sands are my favorite energy efficiency product. That's right. For a better deal for workers, ensuring that the 10 days of paid sick leave for all federally regulated workers starts as soon as possible in 2022. 10 days of paid sick leave for federal workers. Introducing legislation by the end of 2023 to prohibit the use of replacement workers, scabs, when a union employer in a federally regulated industry has locked out employees or is in a strike. Reconciliation. This is an important one as well. Nicole says, I'm back. Had to tweet about the University of Florida changing the name of their Karl Marx room to something else because Ukraine-Russia war. That's right. You can't have a name of a German guy on there. It's very upsetting to people. So you got to make sure that's out of there. Thank you for keeping the focus on this, Nicole. It's very important stuff. This really reminds me of some passages from Bookchin's book on the Spanish anarchists, like the new electoral bloc teamed Solidaridad Catalana, included moderate Republicans, the business-oriented Liga, and Carlist. Despite its popularity at the polls, Solidaridad Catalana had no attraction for the workers and Murcianos, who no longer took elections very seriously in any case. Here's the reconciliation segment of this. Number 5, making a significant additional investment in Indigenous housing in 2022. It'll be up to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities to determine how housing investments are designed and delivered. Nothing about giving any of that crown land back, doesn't seem like. Accelerating the implementation of the federal pathway to address missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and 2SL LGBTQIA+ people with Indigenous partners. Accelerating the implementation of the federal pathway to address the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Again, really inspiring. That report came out in 2017. In 2017, the report on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls came out, which indicated very clearly that there was this ongoing genocide occurring. Remember how mad everyone got when they claimed that there was an ongoing genocide? Everyone was very upset by this. This came out in 2017. And in 2022, as part of this deal that the NDP has made with the Liberals to keep the Liberal government afloat, we're talking about accelerating the implementation of the federal pathway to address missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Again, really inspiring stuff. I've got chills. Reading some of this stuff. Creating a standing federal, provincial, territorial table on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and 2SL LGBTQIA+ people to facilitate and coordinate this work, providing the necessary supports for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities who wish to continue to undertake the work of burial searches at the former sites of residential schools. And nothing in there about, the Wet'suwet'en people, for example, that are being harassed and arrested by the RCMP on their own lands while they're trying to block or undermine the Coastal GasLink pipeline. Nothing in there about what's going to happen with that pipeline or whether that process is going to just continue. Didn't get a mention. A fairer tax system. Moving forward in the near term on tax changes on financial institutions who have made strong profits during the pandemic. Moving forward in the near term on tax changes on these financial institutions that have made strong profits during the pandemic. Tremendous. Implementing a publicly accessible beneficial ownership registry by the end of 2023. What does that even mean? That's our fairer tax system. Moving forward on tax changes on financial institutions who have made strong profits during the pandemic. And only financial institutions, I guess, no other big corporations that have profited from this, or individuals, right? Because it's not just financial institutions that have profited from the pandemic, it's individuals. Nothing about that. And implementing a publicly accessible beneficial ownership registry by the end of 2023. Okay. Good stuff. Making democracy work for people. Recognizing our shared commitment to maintaining the health of our democracy and the need to remove barriers to voting and participation, we will work with Elections Canada to explore ways to expand the ability for people to vote, such as... And this is just like, this is almost insulting, considering the ways that the Liberals explicitly... This is way like... This is a significant step backwards from what the Liberals campaigned on in 2015 and explicitly promised about reforming our broken first-past-the-post electoral system and replacing with some kind of proportional representation system. It's as Trudeau himself famously said, this will be our last election under the first-past-the-post system, and then immediately back down on that. You'd think maybe that's something they could address, but here's the electoral reforms that they're talking about. No mention of this proportional representation or any of these other things, but an expanded election day of 3 days of voting, allowing people to vote at any polling place within their electoral district. Improving the process of mail-in ballots to ensure that voters who choose this method of voting are not disenfranchised. And we commit to ensuring that Quebec's number of seats in the House of Commons remain constant. So these are the extractions that the NDP have demanded from the Liberal Party as part of this negotiation strategy of keeping this government afloat and saying we're going to continue to vote for your budgets and, you know, allow the government to continue for the next few years. Twirling to the future. Masterful negotiating. Like you got, and again, this all just sounds like shit that the Liberals have already been campaigning on and already been talking about. It's literally a step backwards, like with the electoral reform stuff from what Liberals themselves have campaigned on. They ran on this. This is literally backwards from where the Liberal parties were decades ago. Yeah, Amazing Bird Show. This is the brilliant, like, tactical negotiation strategy that we're seeing. And again, you have conservatives now freaking out in this country like they think there's some kind of stealth communism now happening because they've made this deal for this very extremely tepid, milquetoast, neoliberal, market-based reforms where people can have expanded access to affordable dental opportunities. And, committees to research the possibility of somewhat affordable housing will be enacted within the next 4 years. Where our broken, undemocratic electoral system, well, you're going to be able to vote for 3 days. You'll be able to go to multiple polling places. What do you want? This is the Liberals need the NDP. They need the NDP to keep the government going. They have a lot of power to extract meaningful concessions, and this is all uninspiring neoliberal pablum. Nazi Germany is when my teeth are clean. That's what... I mean, I read. That's the funny thing, is that conservatives are literally framing it like this. And it's literally, your teeth won't even be clean. This is the whole problem. They won't even be clean. They will maybe be clean if you're under 18 3 years from now and you make under $90,000 a year. Maybe. Like these, you'll have access to affordable clean teeth opportunities. This is what our social democratic worker-oriented party has been able to extract in terms of concessions from the neoliberal establishment. This is all just more neoliberalism. This is all neoliberalism. We literally have I wish they would just merge parties at this point. I wish the NDP would just admit overall that they have no interest in like even being socially democratic in any way. They're maybe a slightly more progressive oriented neoliberal party, and that's all. Yeah, affordability, opportunity, voting. Search for the word worker, not even mentioned once. I mean, I guess the one thing that you could say is talking about eliminating the ability for because there is this better deal for workers. And introducing legislation by the end of 23 to prohibit the use of replacement workers, quote unquote scabs, when a union employer in a federally regulated industry has locked out employees. So eliminating possibly by the end of 23 the ability of federally regulated industries to use scab labor in the event of a strike. That's the big worker concession that's been given up here. And someone was begging me to watch Jugmeat talk about this, and I guess we can do that. But like I don't know how you can reconcile what we just read with not a means test. This is long. This is 54 minutes. I can't watch this. We can watch it for a few minutes.
Bonjour à tous, bienvenue. On va commencer cette conférence de presse avec une allocution du chef du NPD, Jugmeat.
We need a new approach in politics. One that will unite the entire country in solidarity to workers #free bootstraps for all.
Thank you, useless teammate. That sounds great. Okay, we can't pull ourselves up by our bootstraps if we don't have bootstraps to begin with. We have free bootstraps for all is a little bit commie for me, but we do need expanded access to affordable bootstrap opportunities. We don't want to go too far, but we do need to expand access to affordable bootstrap opportunities for everyone. Okay? We all know that the crux of capitalism is federal jobs. That's right. They're really taking the gloves off on this. Yeah, you've already given your leverage, but you're going to hold them accountable. That's right.
Suivi d'une trentaine de minutes de questions dans la salle.
It's going to hold them accountable even with this deal.
Welcome to this press conference. We will start with a speech from Mr. Singh, then about 30 minutes of questions in the room and on Zoom. Mr. Singh, la parole est à vous.
Merci, thank you.
You have the floor, Mr. Singh.
We've had a really tough 2 years as Canadians. Speaking with a lot of people, and they talk about how it's been tough. The pandemic has been really hard on a lot of people.
Hipster bicycles and
the cost
suits
of living going up is making it really hard on folks. And then we've got a war where people are feeling less safe. And in this time, everyone I talk to, people are telling me that they need help now. And they expect politicians to deliver that help. And that's
Nothing
exactly
in this
what
deal
we're doing.
addresses
We're using our
meaningfully
power
any of these
to get
serious
help to
crises
people.
that we're in.
We are getting help for people that need their teeth fixed. We're getting help for people that need to buy their medication and can't afford to. We're getting help to people that need to find a home to call their own and can't afford one. We're getting help to people dealing with the climate crisis and making sure that we do everything we can to build a better life for people. This is our obligation. I got into politics to help people. And I think about all the folks that I've met, people that came to me with their hand over their mouth because of their teeth not being in good health. the seniors that I've spoken to that could not afford medication because they just don't have the budget to afford it. Young families that can't find a home. These are people that are worried, and kids are worried about their future. They're worried about the climate. And what we've been able to do is to use our power in this minority government to get help to people, to help to people in this difficult time. And I want you to know, we've got your back. We're here for you. We hear you, we see you, and we're fighting to get you that help, and we are delivering that help.
Oh. 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 You would think at this point, you would have people saying like, we don't do the see you hear you thing anymore. We're not. It's kind of played out. You know, you would think that this would be an option. And I actually know people that work in the NDP in communications, actually very good people that I like a lot, who clearly do not have the power and influence that they should have to meaningfully redirect this stuff. You'd think someone would say like, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not saying that. We're not doing the see you, hear you thing anymore. We're not. People are tired of that. Fucking Christ. It really is next level growth when liberals use the result of the problems they create as evidence of how they care. I talked to people who had to cover their mouth because of their teeth. Okay, and that doesn't make you a good person. No, and when you're sitting here now managing expectations downward and talking about how this deal that you've cut will not fix that problem for the vast majority of people, it's just kind of insulting. Yeah, we see you, hear you, and we're doing some bullshit. We're doing some nonsense. God damn, dude. I don't even know if we need to see more than that. Like, all my worst fears have been immediately confirmed. Conservative voters are now 100% electing the biggest reactionary piece of shit in the leadership election this September. That was always going to happen.
On a parlé avec plusieurs personnes pendant ce temps difficile et ils ont partagé leur histoire. Ils ont dit que c'était 2 ans difficiles avec une pandémie, avec le coût de la vie qui augmente et avec une guerre.
The fact that he says unironically, we see you, we hear you, is perhaps the most apt evidence that he does not, in fact, do those things.
Ils ont besoin d'aide maintenant. Ils veulent que les politiciens travaillent ensemble. Et c'est exactement ce qu'on a dit. On a utilisé notre pouvoir pour aider les gens maintenant. On a livré la marchandise pour aider les gens qui ont de la misère à rejoindre les deux bouts. On a utilisé notre pouvoir pour aider les gens de soigner leurs dents, d'aborder leurs médicaments et pour trouver un logement abordable. On a utilisé notre pouvoir pour faire face à la crise climatique. Et dans ces temps difficiles, c'est exactement ce que les gens méritent. Mais on va continuer notre travail. On va continuer de lutter pour les gens. Le travail n'est pas fini. I also want to add that the work isn't finished. This is not a destination, but a starting point. And we're going to continue to fight. We're not going to let the liberals off the hook. We're going to continue to fight to make sure people get the help they need. So in this difficult time when people needed help, We are using our power to get them that help. We're
Jugmeat. Come on, sir. We're going to continue to fight. You'd think that we're not going to let them off the hook. You would think the time to do that would be in the negotiation process when you agreed to keep the government going. That's when you have your leverage, right? We'll continue to fight, but after we've given up all the leverage. That's right. Yeah, good. Very good. Is this a worse or better than the U.S. progressive taking the infrastructure bill before the BBB bill? I don't know if it's better or worse, but I do think if you're American, you should be paying attention to this, because this is, I think, if you really think that like the progressives in the Democratic Party having their own party or having a more forceful bloc would be the answer to passing big progressive legislation, I think what you're looking at is what the actual result of that will be. Which is them basically, again, merging with the sort of neoliberal establishment and kind of managing expectations downward to their more radical base, radical, and managing expectations downward and giving a more progressive kind of sheen on what's ultimately a neoliberal centrist agenda that's in no way adequate for confronting any of the very serious crises that we're kind of facing here. That's ultimately what is happening here with this coalition, and that's the same thing. If you think that progressive Democrats splitting off and forming their own bloc or their own party would be the answer, I think you're looking at what the actual result of that would look like in practice.
Making sure people get help to get their teeth fixed, to get the medication they need, and we're not going to let the Liberal government off the hook. We're going to continue to fight hard for people and continue to make sure we hold them to account to deliver these things that people need. Merci. Thank you so much. I'm ready for your questions.
Alors, on va commencer les questions.
Disregard that, Frank. It's just a bunch of liberal bullshit. I don't know. We can get more into the details of this. Again, I gotta go pretty soon, so let's put a pin in this. We'll put a pin in this, okay? I think I saw and heard all I needed to see and hear when Jugmeat said that he sees us and hears us. I think that was pretty much all I really needed to see and hear to understand what is going on here. We'll circle back on this next time. I don't know how that guy was in here saying, oh, it's not a means test. No, don't worry. Don't worry, it's not a means test. While the fucking means test language is right directly in front of us. And he says, no, watch the press conference. You'll see it's not a means test. It's very clearly means tested. I don't know, it's like, we know what that means. Words still have meanings. You thought you meant no memes testing. Oh boy. Yeah, it's literally more means tested than the Liberal proposal in 2015. It's like we're literally going backwards. All the problems and crises are getting worse, and we're going backwards. That's not good. That's not very good at all. I don't know what we're supposed to take away from that. Who am I rating here? It's a nices test. Means test doesn't mean means testing by means. It means what it means. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mustachioed Canadian disappointed in own country's incompetent Liberal parties claims all third parties bad. Well, I don't know if I'm saying that all third parties are bad, but I think what it does tell us is that the progressive politicians in the West, in Canada and the US, are just neoliberals. So it's not like a third party necessarily has to be a dead end, but it is a dead end if it's being run by slightly more progressive neoliberals than the centrist neoliberals that are in charge. You're ultimately not really like getting much out of that. But you are mustachioed, to be clear. That's correct. That's very correct. Yeah, the bourgeois parties are bad. You can have as many parties as you want in this bourgeois liberal democracy, whether it's the US style or the Canadian style parliamentary democracy, and the result is the same. You get a whole bunch of nothing. You get affordable access to the possibility of nothing in the future. Nothing-based opportunities. This is all these folks have to offer us. These are unserious countries. I'll raid Marina's channel. Marina hangs out on this channel often and subscribes, which I appreciate. Not a lot of viewers. Let's do that. I used to like the NDP a lot. I've lost a lot of hope in this kind of electoralism over the past few years. The acquisition of votes becomes more important than already watered down platform they're supposedly fighting for. Yeah, and this is not even going to result in the NDP gaining more power. They've literally gone backwards since 2016. 2016, we had the Bernie movement, we had Trump, we have the growing climate crisis, we have the housing crisis. There's so many real, serious contradictions that are emerging in our culture, in our society. There's so many opportunities for the NDP to grow and to expand their influence and to be more radical. And they've gone backwards. It's been 5-6 years now, they're going backwards. Like, that's really bad. That's a really big problem, you know? Like, Nikki Ashton did that campaign event with Jeremy Corbyn, and people in the NDP were like, whoa, don't hang out with that guy. He's no good. Jeremy fucking Corbyn. Talk to you tomorrow.